Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Nascar Randomness podcast. The last podcast accidentally got screwed up and I accidentally gave him the episode 4 audio, so I'll be fixing that, or the episode 3 audio rather. So we'll be fixing that. Maggie is not here today, unfortunately. I have no idea where she went. I think she's at another thing. She was actually recruited by a llama to go eat 20 tacos. Yeah, that's what happened. So anyway, today's episode is going to be called the Daytona 500 basically episode. So Monday, February something, 17th I think, I don't know. There's Daytona 500. The pole sitter was Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and it was a historical race because the Grand Marshal was actually Donald Trump. He was there, and I think that was pretty cool. Dale Earnhardt Jr. actually dropped the first green flag. So there were technically a lot of outs in the race. There was some dominance. It's important. There's a couple names. But here we go. The winner of Stage 1 was Chase Elliott. The winner of Stage 2 was Denny Hamlin. And the race winner was Denny Hamlin. Now the people out were William Byron, Quinn Hoff, Jimmy Johnson, Alex Bowman, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Reed Sorensen, Corey LaJoie, BJ McLeod, I can never pronounce it, and some more. There was a lot. There was like half the 1,000 field. There was 18 out of 40 left that finished the race that I can know. There were 2 red flags in the race, which means the entire race stopped. There was a huge last lap crash, which I'll get to in a minute. And there's probably 10 or more cautions. Hendrick dominated. First Penske dominated. Team Penske dominated. Then Team Hendrick dominated. And then Joe Gibbs Racing dominated. Then I feel like Ford got to the front, then Hendrick, and then Joe Gibbs Racing kind of came back up. So let's start why the Daytona 500 is important. So Daytona is where NASCAR all began. It's a huge honor to win the Daytona 500. Some of the greatest winners are Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt Sr., Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Bill Elliott, and Denny Hamlin, who was the 2020 race winner and the 2019 race winner. He won the Daytona 500 back-to-back. And also, he's a 3-time winner now. I think he won in 2016 also, or 2014. Yeah, it was 2016. And he won twice in 2016 and 2020 by just a tiny little bit. So, Denny Hamlin's now a 3-time winner, winning in 2016, I think, over Martin Truex Jr., in 2020 over Kyle Busch, in 2019 over Kyle Busch, and in 2020 over Ryan Blaney. Now, I'm just going to quickly get to the last lap crash. In the last lap crash, Ryan Newman, so I'm trying to remember in my head, I'm not watching this right here. He got kind of like tapped by Ryan Blaney because Ryan Blaney, I think, was going to push him to the win because he was about to win. It was the last lap. He turned, hit the wall, and then kind of like air got under the back of his car. He flipped. And then he was probably going to land on all fours or just land on his roof and be okay. But then Corey LaJoie came, didn't even know who he was hitting. That's how fast he was going. And flipped Ryan Newman again. Ryan Newman then landed on the driver's side, and the car burst into flames. Ryan Newman was hospitalized. He went to the Halifax Medical Center. They had to cut the roof off, and it took 20 minutes to get him out. He went to the Halifax Medical Center in Daytona Beach, and then he was with serious injuries but non-life-threatening injuries. Then, I think yesterday, he was released from the hospital holding the hands of his 2 daughters. So, pretty cool that he's alive because that was a really bad crash. And NASCAR has become a long way with safety features, and they're going to try to enhance safety even more. It's really crazy. And I would actually like to be a NASCAR driver myself one day, so that'd be nice. All right. So, let's start. At the beginning of the race, the Joe Gibbs Racing drivers, there's 2 that are already in the back, but it was Eric Jones and Martin Truex Jr. They dropped to the back to come get their teammates in the beginning of the race. As soon as the green flag dropped, they just went back. And then they came to the front at the beginning of Stage 2. Now, the leaders that I could find that led the race, it could be only for a quarter of a lap or a long lap. But it was Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Eric Almirola, Ryan Newman, Michael McDowell, Ryan Blaney, Corey LaJoie, Brad Keselowski, Alex Bowman, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, Jimmy Johnson, and Timmy Hill. So that's kind of cool that I could find 14 different leaders over the course of the race. Sorry, I just had to count it. So when there were 17 laps to go, there was a big wreck that kind of took out half the field. And then when there's 2 to go, there's another crash, and they went into overtime. And then I just explained there was that last lap crash, too, which they couldn't stop the race because Denny Hamlin was, like, already to the, I can't think, sorry. He was right to the finish line. All right. So there is a nickname called the Great American Race for the Daytona 500. And here it says in the book called The Daytona 500, The Thrill and Thunder of the Great American Race by Nancy Roe Pym. It says here on page 15 in chapter 2, The Early Years at Daytona, it says, what's in a name? The Daytona 500 wasn't called the Great American Race until 1982. Race announcer Ken Squire was thinking about how the Indianapolis 500, the most famous race in U.S. IndyCar racing, was called the greatest spectacle in racing, and how the Daytona 500 didn't have a nickname of its own. After Bobby Allison's 1982 Daytona 500 victory, Squire dubbed it the Great American Race. So that's pretty cool. It's also sometimes called the 500, too, and I think that's awesome. Which, there's a lot of racing that goes on, but the Daytona 500 is one of the best. Which I really like the Daytona 500. The Daytona 500 is also one of the best races ever in NASCAR. I'm going to try to find some Daytona 500 stuff. So here it is, some audio from the Daytona 500 at that last lap crash, and because it was like a horrifying crash and really important, so. Hold on a minute, headphones are in. Okay, here it is, the final lap, terrifying crash audio.
Newman backed up to Blaney. Big run coming here. To the inside. Newman to the front. Nothing Denny Hamlin can do. What can Ryan Blaney now do? Here comes a push from Denny Hamlin. Oh, this thing's not over yet. Not at all.
Ryan Newman off turn 4 for the final time. Blaney to the outside. To the inside. Here comes Hamlin up the outside.
Wow.
Crash into the wall. Into the air. Goes Newman.
Upside down.
In a shower of sparks on his roof, Ryan Newman comes across the line, 4th, and comes to rest. Scoring, unofficial, between Hamlin and Blaney. Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, too close to come.
So that was the audio. I hate watching that. I'm like sweating now. I don't know why I'm sweating from that. I guess it's just because it was a crazy crash. I don't know. I never saw anything that was more terrifying. So I found 10 facts for the Daytona 500 you might not know, from the Newsville. So here we go. The first Daytona 500 was held in 1959. I never knew that, actually. Let's see. Wow, okay. Waltrip does the icky shuffle. After earning his only career Daytona 500 victory in 1989, three-time NASCAR champion Darrel Waltrip exited his race car and performed the icky shuffle dance in victory lane before spiking his helmet like it was a football. Waltrip won the race in the number 17 car on the 17th of February in his 17th attempt of the winning event. Okay, that's kind of funny, actually. Jeff Gordon, in 1997, he was the youngest winner. In 1998, it took Dale Earnhardt Sr. 20 years to finally win his first Daytona 500. Danica Patrick in 2013 was the first female NASCAR driver to win the pole position for the Daytona 500, which I hope I become the second driver to ever do that when I become a driver, if I do. And yeah, that was pretty cool. And that's all for now. I'm hoping that my next podcast can be on, or our next podcast can be on Hailie Deegan. She's a stock car driver, and she's racing in full-time ARCA series, and I think it's so cool. Oh, it says here that Hailie Deegan, 18-year-old NASCAR phenomenon, met Trump at the Daytona 500. That's pretty cool. So, she is 18. Her car number is 4. And she is in the ARCA series. So that's fun. So, yeah, that's this week's podcast. I seriously hope you enjoyed it. Sorry about the paper wrinkling there. As Maggie would say, ASMR. I don't even know what that is. And that, my friends, is why. No, I'm just kidding. And that is the end of the Daytona 500. Episode 5, NASCAR Randomness. Amazing podcast. The end.